So part of a big part of just playing better is communication, and part of that is communicating to your team what you would prefer to play and what you can play and what you cannot play. Like, using myself for an example, I would prefer mid. That doesn't mean I can only play mid, and it doesn't mean I can play everything. So you should be more specific. You should say, I prefer mid, but you can do X, Y, and Z. And then if there's something that you absolutely don't want to do, because you think your chances of winning will go down if you're on that role, don't be afraid to tell people, like, I'm a Diamond 3 player. That doesn't mean I play everything at Diamond 3. I'm a pretty awful ADC. Not my strongest role. I don't enjoy it. I don't perform well on it. I just don't have a lot of practice with it, so I go out of my way to tell teammates, don't put me on ADC. I can do anything else. I'm best at mid, but that's that. So that's one thing you can do. Oh baby, it's Agito time. This is educational Agito time. Alright, can I spectate yet? I wish I could see the chat for his game, because that's a big part of what I wanted to talk about. It's just communication and how you interact with other people. Unfortunately, I think you can only see all chat, so I won't see how the team is talking to each other. So this is a bronze game we're spectating, as you can tell by support Teemo. This is a rank game. So what is going on here? So the player that we will be paying attention to is Caitlyn. Caitlyn is our hero. And he is up against an odd team composition. This is support Teemo with a Vayne. Support Teemo is not the worst thing in the world. I'm making jokes about it, but you do have a blind, which, coupled with exhaust, basically reduces the damage output of the ADC while you're, if the team's all in each other. You get pretty good control of bushes when Teemo hits 6 with his mushrooms. It's honestly not the worst thing in the world. So everyone likes to make jokes about Teemo, but yes, Teemo does have a high win percentage. Why is this not loading? There we go. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind here, basically what I do, and I feel like a lot of people should do this, is the first thing I like to do is to look up the game on LOL Nexus. Now, I don't recommend reading too much into what you see here. I'm going to go over the things you should pay attention to and the things you can ignore. Things you would like to pay attention to is who are the duos. So our heroes team, Caitlyn, has a Lux and Sejuani duo. That doesn't really mean much. Now, if the enemy mid lane was looking at this, he would like to know, okay, the jungler and the mid lane are a duo. It's possible they're on Skype or they're on Ventrilo, something along those lines, and they can basically coordinate their ganks better than most people if they're not friends and familiar with each other. So that's one thing to look at. I personally don't recommend looking at how many times they've played the champion. I feel like this doesn't really give you a lot of information. It doesn't mean much that you see zeros here. They could have had experience when this champion played normal games. They could have played on other accounts. So I don't recommend looking too much into that unless you see some sort of number that really jumps out at you, like, oh, this guy has played you know, 1,600 games on Zillion, which is actually someone I played against the other day. It's 1,600 games on Zillion. I also like to look at their runes. You could check out their masteries if you want to. Runes are nice. Not a big deal. It doesn't mean much, but you could see what they're going for. Kill death assist ratio. You could look at it, and it could. What I like to look at it for is, for example, if Caitlyn had like 9 kills per game and 3 deaths per game, and she's got a healthy number of games played, I'm not going to look at that and assume this person is going to have a great game and going to carry, but it does tell me they're comfortable on the role, and that, if I was playing the support, it tells me that if I were to make a play, I can kind of trust this player to follow up properly. Little things like that. So that's basically all I would take away from looking at LOL Nexus. Alright, so the beginning game here is not very interesting. So, one of the biggest factors for moving up the ladder is having a good, not necessarily even a good attitude, just the right attitude. So, I want to talk about ragers and why they rage, and try and give a little bit of understanding to maybe anyone here who falls into the category of rager, and why you shouldn't do it, why you do it, and the effect it has on your game. So, basically, people have fun playing a game in different ways. I mean, you look at it, it's a game. Games are meant to be fun. Now, people get their fun in different ways, though. Some people will get their fun just by playing the game. Some people, actually I would argue a lot of people, especially ranked players in League of Legends, they derive their fun from winning. So you want to win. If you win the game... yes, I said do. If you win the game, you had fun. That's generally how it goes. If you lost the game, it's pretty rare that you lose and then walk away from the game saying, ooh, that was fun. Generally, you're frustrated, you wanted to win. So, the rager, let's say Caitlyn is the rager. He's prone to raging. Let's say his top lane Renekton dies 2 times, gives first blood, dies a second time a few minutes later. Now, his poor performance, the Renekton's poor performance, would mean that he is decreasing your chance of winning the game by making these mistakes. By decreasing your chance of winning the game, this was a mistake, by the way. Lux should not have gone down this river and gave first blood. Should have just came around the long way with the Caitlyn. It's pretty careless. So let's pay attention to Caitlyn. So Caitlyn's at a disadvantage here, having to basically 1v2 in the lane while getting harassed by Teemo, who is the worst champion in the game and should be deleted. Sorry, it had to be said. So Caitlyn's at a disadvantage here. So... okay. Yeah, this is really going to suck for Caitlyn. Just look at something fast. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to stay focused on Caitlyn here. This lane really offers no sustain. Lux, in my opinion, is not the greatest support. Although it works with Caitlyn because of her long auto attack range. And it does offer good kill potential when Sejuani and or TF come to gank. Sorry, I just hit puberty apparently. So it's not going to do much right now, especially while they're a little bit behind. So it's... oh my god. So that's unfortunate. Alright, Vayne actually died there. didn't even notice that. The camera wasn't angled to actually see it, so I wasn't paying attention. But that's not the greatest trade, because I think Vayne picked up that kill. I think Teemo got the first blood. So support getting a kill for ADC getting a kill, not the greatest trade. This is actually one of the reasons I dislike ADC, because as of Season 3, and I imagine this won't change in Season 4, for the first 10 to 15 minutes, really the first 10 minutes of the game, the support is actually more important in bottom lane than the ADC himself. So, you know, this, he should have just auto-attacked that. The animation from his Q was too delayed and he missed it. So, when you have a bad support, like this Lux is in a bad position here, and it's going to take a lot of harass and maybe die again for the third time. Yep. When you have a bad support, it makes it really difficult to have a good game on ADC. So, the guy we're watching here, he might end up losing this game, and he might not have the best score. Oh, that's unfortunate for the blue team. So, there's only so much you can do as the ADC when your support is not doing a good job. The support is supposed to basically give you a buffer and room to work with, so you can last hit and farm, and you can harass if you need to. When your support is just feeding the lane like this guy is, it makes it really difficult to do anything. So Sejuani's coming to gank. He's sitting on a ward. It should be obvious to them that it's warded based on how far back they were staying. I mean, they are so far ahead in this lane. Alright, this should be a good gank. This Teemo should die at least. I can't believe no one's going to die here. Okay, Caitlyn's dead. Wait. That was good. Jax had TP, right? No, Jax was the jungler. Wow. I'm honestly surprised. Well, first off, I'm surprised no one died till it got to here. That was some misplays there. The duo, well, not the duo, I mean the bot lane was a little too far back, and I don't know if they saw Sejuani coming around the tri-bush. So they were a little too far back, and that gave Teemo and Vayne enough time to run away. Mistake from Caitlyn. I don't understand this flash from Lux. Like I said, this is a bronze game, so you will see questionable mechanics and decision making here. They should be able to kill the Teemo if they're careful. TF should come back in. He's low on mana though, so they're gonna have to auto. Alright, good. Yes, they should have been able to kill him. We have a TP coming in here. So, this is kind of a wild, sloppy game. 15 kills in the first 8 minutes of the game. That generally doesn't happen in higher elos. You also have a lot of globals in this game. You have TF ult, you have 2 teleports on this team. So there's going to be a lot of action because people will be appearing out of nowhere. That's something you want to pay attention to when you're loading into a game. You want to take note of the summoner spells and what people are using. 2 TPs is kind of rare. The team comp in general is a bit odd. It's a mid lane Zac, which I haven't seen in a long time. But The Caitlyn's Twisted Fate is doing very well. He's got 4 kills and 2 assists already. Seems to be able to pick a gold card at will, so yellow card. Alright, let's focus on Caitlyn. Alright, so they seem to be meshing well now. The Lux is landing snares, Caitlyn follows up with a Q. Sejuani does not have... Alright, Sejuani has ult now. Alright. It's amusing. So, in a situation like this, they should go take Dragon. They just finished the tower, the ADC died. They don't know that Jax is in the base, but this is basically a free Dragon here. This is, in my opinion, what lower elo players do not do well. They don't focus well on objectives. Sejuani ran all the way back here to get wolves. It's just not a good call by them, so that's a mistake. Now, it's not on the jungler. It's not necessary. I mean, it's all of their faults. Any one of these players could have pinged Dragon and pointed out that it was a good opportunity to do it. Alright, they killed the blobs. TF shouldn't have ran that far back, I don't think. I think he could have stayed a little closer to... Because he had his, the E, the extra magic damage from it, he could have gone off the auto. So, oh boy, he's dead. Oh, yellow card. I mean, red card, So, like I was saying, any one of those players could have pinged Dragon. They could have said, hey guys, we should take this, it's a free Dragon, which it was. Little things like that. You know, I don't mean to harp on it, but it adds up. Like, that's an objective they could have taken, rather than farm wolves and do whatever it is they did. So it's not, you know, it's not the end of the world, but little things like that. One of the other things that you should generally do is you should not point out mistakes of people. Like, what I see this at higher elos, I think, more so than lower ones, is, you know, someone thinks that they're... Alright, someone's pinging Dragon. Sejuani looks like she's... This is actually a bad time to do it. There's a fight going on in middle right now, so... this is a really bad play from Sejuani here. Because Sejuani is not the best at soloing it, so she's putting herself in danger here. And, I mean, Caitlyn could have gone to help. Any one of them, they're gonna get this, but they should have done it earlier. And more people should have come to help rather than Sejuani getting dropped to a 3rd HP. What was I saying? Saying about... Oh, right. At higher elos, people... They think that, you know, oh, I'm platinum, oh, I'm diamond, I've made it, I can say whatever I want, I know everything about the game. And they become commentators. Okay. Again, this is bronze, so... You know, we're gonna see things like that. But, I keep losing my train of thought, getting interrupted by fights. Yeah, so, you know, when a player makes a mistake, they generally know they've made the mistake. Like, you know, if I all-in someone, and I didn't ward, and I was careless, I didn't pay attention to where the jungler was, and then he comes out and counter ganks, and, you know, I die, you know, I know that's a mistake. I don't need to be told by the team. I don't need you to be like, oh, you shouldn't have done this, why didn't you do this? All these things, Alright, that was a good play by all them. You know, like, so much of this game is just your attitude, and when you're frustrated, you tend to play worse. So you don't need people piling on the frustration. So either don't say anything at all, or you can be nice and say something, you know, good, you know, positive. Be like, oh, you know, better luck next time, or ooh, nice try, almost, things like that. Or you could say good job, you know, when something good happens on the team. All those little things are just like, it seems like nothing when you do it, but in the back of the player's mind on your team, it makes them want to play better. They usually perform better. This is going to be a quick game, I would expect. Oh, you've been spotted, Teemo. Yeah, this, I would be surprised if this doesn't end in 20 minutes. Like, I played a game, I think it was a day or two ago, and it was kind of an even game. Like, we were a little bit ahead, and then we got careless, and we had this awful team fight and gave the enemy Jax a pentakill, which I was really frustrated about because I was actually the 5th one to die, and I hate being the pentakill. So, you know, on some teams, you would get that guy who basically calls GG. It's like, oh, Jax is fed, he got a pentakill, GG. They would type /FF and try and surrender. They had ruined the team morale and just, you know, they would just want the game to end and to move on to the next one. Doesn't matter that it's actually still a pretty close game. Doesn't matter to win. But yeah, so like, and the same thing goes for other things too. I mean, like, if you give up first blood, you know, it doesn't matter if Vayne starts the game 3-0. Like, yeah, that makes it more difficult, but what a scumbag stealing the kills. So just stay positive. You know, if you can't bring yourself to say something positive, just don't talk. Be silent the entire game. I promise you will win more often. This team comp on the left, in general, is not very good because virtually every one of their champions is asking to go to late game. And because they're so behind now, it's very difficult for them to do anything. You have the short-range Vayne, who's struggling, who actually wasn't struggling in the beginning of the game. She did start the game, I think, 2-0. Oh, I hope he comes back. That would suck to be this far ahead and to lose because of a DC. That's a good point. I'd like to bring that up as well. You know, I welcome people to add me in the game. I welcome them to ask me questions. I'll spectate games like I'm doing now every now and then. But I noticed this pattern of bronze and silver players. They basically will try and give me their sob story and tell me why they're stuck in bronze or silver. And it's like, oh, I always get, you know, these ragers, I always get these DCs and AFKs. And people like that don't realize that you win just as many games for the same reason. You know, how many times have your games ended with the enemy saying, GG, please report so-and-so for whatever? Like, you have a habit of ignoring that when it happens, when you're on the winning team, because you don't want to dismiss your own wins and your performance and be like, well, I only won because this guy fed or this guy was toxic. Or so when you win and the enemy team is asking you to report someone, you brush it off and you ignore it. But, you know, try and picture yourself on the opposite side. You've been that guy at the end of games who will say, GG, please report so-and-so for whatever. So it's just like it's like a bias that, you know, you're only seeing it when it happens to you in a negative way, but it happens in your favor just as often. So to anyone who tells me they're bronze because, you know, people DC or they AFK or they rage, I'm sorry, I have no pity for those people. Because, you know, it happens to everyone, it happens at higher elos, and like I said, you win games because of it too. So unfortunately this wasn't the most interesting game to watch because it was so one-sided. And like I was pointing out before, I think I interrupted myself, they basically have a late game team comp with Jax, Vayne, and Tryndamere. And they really have no AP burst as well. They don't have the TF, they don't have a Lux, who's actually pretty fed this game. She has 7 kills and a Magias with how many stacks? 13 stacks, so she has 280 AP for support at 20 minutes. That's more than most mid laners have at 20 minutes in a normal game. You didn't really need the barrier. That was kind of a waste. You don't want a barrier when you're near full health. Barrier, generally you would save it as a bait. You know, like if you're about to die, you can barrier, and then hopefully that'll save you and allow you to get a kill. But, I mean, you know, it doesn't matter in a game like this where there's an infinitely small chance of losing this game. The only way I can picture them losing this game is if someone DCs, and I've won 4v5s, so even then I think they could still close out this game. But, yeah, so I get the mistake doesn't mean much, but it doesn't mean it wasn't a mistake. I always feel like regardless of how one-sided the game is, you can always learn something from it. You know, even if you're on this blue team where it's 7-36, there are things that they could have done to basically improve themselves. I feel like Caitlyn should have waited another second there. Then the ultimate would have wore off. He probably would have gotten the kill. So another little mistake there. When it comes down to it, basically the team who wins is the team who made fewer mistakes. And you could, I bet you could keep like a tally chart of, you know, this little mistake, this little mistake. Caitlyn needs to get out of there. So one of the other general tips I'll give is making good use of the pings. Can I do a ping while in the game here? No, I can't do normal pings. I can't do the smart pings. But you know, if you're playing a champion like Twisted Fate, or you're like I play, you know, my main is Heimerdinger. I play him all the time, which, you know, for you guys who actually watch me, you would know that. So I generally run teleport, except in a few situations, and I will always spam the on my way ping as I decide to do it. So I make the decision, I'm going to teleport, and then I will start spamming it, you know, assuming I'm like ganking a lane and there are other people nearby. So the same thing can be done with TF. You know, if you're gonna gank with your ultimate, start spamming on my way, and basically do the most you can to let your teammates know that you're going to be ganking. Another thing you can do with pings is, let's pretend you're playing, yeah, this was kind of a stomp. Let's pretend you're playing mid lane, and so let's say I'm the mid laner this game, and it's early in the game, so the mid laner is not going to take blue by himself, but I see that he leaves to go take blue. what a lot of people do is they'll just call mid missing. And that's okay, but you know more than that. Not only do you know that mid is missing, you know that he went to blue, and you know that the jungler is at blue too. So you can let your team know that information, and that'll allow bottom lane to be more aggressive because the jungler is on the other side of the map. It warns the top laner that, you know, after he's done giving blue, the jungler is either going, he's going to do one of three things. He's going to recall, or he's going to gank mid, or he's going to gank top. So you, as the mid laner, know of this. So it's unlikely it's going to happen to you because you're going to be careful. So if you keep the information to yourself, it doesn't help your team. You need to tell the top laner on your team, the jungler's nearby, be careful. And like I said, it helps the bottom laner as well. They can be more aggressive and know that the enemy jungler is not nearby. I'm honestly surprised they didn't surrender. Where's Caitlyn? Caitlyn died. I wasn't paying attention to how she died. Another thing that you should be doing is, like, look at this Renekton. Guy is 8-1 and 8. Look at his inventory. He has a ward. Everyone should be buying wards pretty much throughout the game. And this was true in Season 3, but it's going to be even more true in Season 4 when they limit how many wards each player can place. So, you know, Riot has made it impossible for just a support to actually ward up the map now. So it's going to be, you know, I wouldn't recommend you just rely on the trinket. You know, if you have enough money for a ward, buy a ward. Alright, so it looks like this game is finally... Yes, wards get you season rewards. That kind of rhymes, I like that. Basically, if you ward and you keep map control, you will win more games. So every player should be warding. I kind of give a break to the ADC, because he generally has the support near him, so the support can kind of cover the two of them. So, I mean, he can. And, you know, if you're in a situation where you can and you have the space and you have the extra gold, you can. But, in general, I would save it for the support in that case. But everyone else should be buying wards. The jungler can buy wards. The mid can buy wards. The top laner can buy wards. Ward placement is important too, and I unfortunately can't talk about it because the game just ended, but yeah, so this was the guy that we were spectating. I told him to go play another, and I'll keep commentating and spectating that one. So, if you try and look at it from the other side, to look at what went wrong for this team, I would say team composition was a bad start. I said at the beginning of the game, support Teemo is... I don't know. I don't know if I want to say the word viable, but, you know, you can win games with it, is what I'm saying. But, you know, obviously it didn't work out here. But the Zac mid was not a good choice. Jack's jungle, not really a huge fan of, especially with the rest of this lineup. It's so late game that if you fall behind early, which they did, you just never get there. And then it's 53-11 and you lose. Yeah, the Teemo build. Alright, so is he queuing up for another game? He is. So we're gonna be... Oh, no, I was looking at the wrong person. Burn, kill. burn kill. Where are you? Alright, looks like he's in queue. I don't know why it says in champion select instead of in queue for him. So we talked about warding. I'm going to talk a little bit about ward placement when we actually get into the game. And basically, map awareness is important as well. Map awareness is very important. So, one of the things you should pay attention to when... Actually, you could just look at this in champion select once the lineups are, figured out. Look at the two junglers and see if one is significantly stronger than the other. For example, say you have an Udyr on the enemy team and you have an Amumu on your team, or maybe a Nautilus, something along those lines. When you look at that, you should, in the back of your mind, think to yourself, there is a high likelihood of this Udyr trying to counter jungle and invade and potentially kill your jungler at level 2. At the enemy buff, yeah. Shyvana versus Amumu, anything like that. Shyvana Udyr is on one side, incredibly strong duelist early on, very mobile. And then the late game junglers who have weak early games, like Amumu, Nautilus, I guess Maokai is one of them too. Like a little bit weaker early game. So you should have in the back of your mind that your jungler could get invaded and that you need to go back him up if something were to go down. So another little thing that you should do is that fight will typically break out as, I believe it's around as the second wave of minions hits the mid lane, and you will not be level 2 until you kill one of those minions. After the first wave is cleared, unless you have an XP boost from something, you will be almost level 2. And there's a huge difference between being level 1 and level 2 if you get into an early fight with the enemy jungler. It's a whole new ability that you have access to. If you're level 1, you only have one ability. There's not so much you can do with that. If you're level 2 and you have 2 abilities at your disposal, it's a lot more damage you can put out and potentially kill him and turn the tide of the game and save your jungler and all that. So if you're expecting, whether you're expecting to be invaded or your jungler is invading and you need to go back him up, I generally like to push as fast as possible to reach that level 2 very quickly in case I need to leave the lane and go help him. So a quick level 2 is very important. This game is a troll. Should I just dodge? Lose LP, won't you? I don't know. I've never dodged before. I'd rather just play out a troll game. I don't like losing LP, and I don't like having to wait. -3. I don't think I've ever lost 30 for a game. I think the most I've ever lost for a single game was like 20. I think it depends on your MMR compared to the game. If you're expected to win it and you lose, then you'll lose more. If you're expected to lose and you lose, then you actually lose less. It could also depend on if you're Division 1 and clamped. If you're in Division 1, you typically lose like... I remember when I used to be clamped, I would lose like 3 to 6 for a game. But you would also only gain that much for a game, so... it's up to him. If he wants to dodge, he can. I would prefer he get into a game as soon as possible because I'm trying to commentate on these things. Yep, so looking at the minimap is good. Generally, my eyes, like, the way I'm looking right now, I'm looking at the center of the screen. Now I'm looking at the minimap. Now I'm looking at the center screen, minimap, and I go back and forth. And you usually want to dart your eyes back and forth. You should always be paying attention to it. What else is there? I just dodged once, so I was at 80, then a one. Oh, huh. I remember back in, like, I would say season 2 and earlier, a lot of people would get upset if you didn't call your lane missing. And I feel like a lot of players have moved away from that. Like, you can call it missing, and you should, just as a reminder to your team, but your team should be paying attention to the entire minimap, not just their lane. You should be keeping tabs on where the jungler is, you should be keeping tabs on where the top laner is, where the bottom lane are. Yeah, ping for sure, but don't rely on the ping. And certainly don't go flipping out on someone if they get ganked and, you know, you didn't call missing or whatever. Because going back to what I was talking about earlier, the negative attitude will basically cause you to lose more games. I don't play normals, I don't know. I personally feel like they're a waste of time. Everyone insta-locks whatever they want. You get these weird team comps. Most people treat normal games as practice for mechanics, and they don't really, I don't know, maybe not for everyone, but I feel like a lot of people don't care whether they win or lose. They'd probably prefer to win, but it's really just about doing well with your champion, and if you win, great, and if you lose, rage at your team and blame them. Yeah, a lot of people consider it practice. Is he in a game? I don't know if he dodged or what. Oh, he's in game. Alright, so he's playing Jarvan this game. Jarvan is his main. Well, I don't know if it's main champion, but he told me earlier that jungle and top lane were his preferred things. There we go. Okay. So again, first thing I'd like to do is to look at summoner spells. Look for anything that stands out as abnormal. To me, Nasus spells look a little different than you would expect. Ghost is a really good ability on him, and generally he'll take, usually I would see like Flash Ghost, or maybe Flash Teleport, or even Ghost Teleport. This Ignite is, I would say, unusual for Nasus, so it's something to keep in mind in the laning phase. Victor has TP, so he'll be a little bit weaker in lane, but he can roam. He can roam and get a kill. So Swain will be stronger than him in this matchup, but so you have to memorize every champion? What do you mean by that? Oh, in terms of map awareness, what I was saying earlier? Is that what you mean? Yeah, what are you, what you talking about, Willis? Oh, okay, that's what you mean. It's just a matter of experience playing the champion, knowing what works well on them. Like, where's my sound? Okay, never mind. It's just quiet. um, you know, it's experience and just knowing what works well in the champion. Like, Ghost is not for everyone. It works well on a number of champions. It works well on Vladimir. It works well on Nasus. I would say it works well on Jax. Generally, any champion that needs to auto attack to deal their damage and can get kited, not auto attack, melee auto attack, and can get kited like a Nasus, you want Ghost. Because otherwise, he's not going to be terribly useful in a team fight later on. Alright, so Jarvan is the one who will be spectating this game. Jungle is his main, so we'll see what he does here. The Darius could be watching mid. Sitting a tower like this does nothing. It, you know, for all his team knows, I mean, they spotted a lot of them here, but I don't think they spotted everyone. So for all the purple team knows, the jungle Jax, which is 2 games in a row now we're seeing that, could have stolen this red and could come up for an early gank here and could potentially snowball the game. So he would have screwed himself over there if that had happened, but it didn't. So Jarvan's going directly to his red. Let me say that I am not a Jarvan player. I've played against plenty of them, so I'd like to think they know what I'm talking about, but in terms of things like skill order, I don't play him, so I'm going to take for granted that this player knows the proper skill order. So if you're Jarvan now, you're basically looking at the minimap. You see the top lane is pushed, and it's pretty much impossible to gank there. So that's out of the question. Swain is going back already because Victor's beating him up apparently. So that's not an option. Now, this is a really good ward from the blue team, because when Jarvan is on the purple team, he usually goes into here, which I think he might do. No, never mind, he's not going to do that. He's going to go directly. Alright, now Leona went in, so he shouldn't hesitate, and he didn't. That's good. So Leona might die here. No, Leona will live. Alright. Ooh, nice flash from Twitch. Alright, so they did get a kill. Because basically what I was going to say is Jarvan can stand here, and he can combo over into this bush. So like if you have Tribush warded, if you have Dragon warded, it doesn't spot this. So he basically will combo into here, wait on his cooldown, and then come into gank. But they're very good about warding this. That's a really good ward against Jarvan. The same can actually be done here. You know, if Jarvan is on the blue team, then he comes here, and, you know, let's say the purple top laner put a ward at Baron, or he put in his Tribush, or even put it here. I don't think it'll spot him coming over directly into the bush. So only in the bush is good against Jarvan. So who else got a kill? I wasn't paying attention. Jax got a kill on Darius. Okay. Alright, so let's keep following Jarvan here. Now another thing that you would want to do as a team with a teleport on your team, notice how purple team put the ward here. It's okay, but if you can help it, you want to put the ward here on the other end. Because let's say Victor wants to teleport into this. Actually, never mind. That's good. That actually would have been fine, because Victor could have teleported here, since the fight was so far pushed up. But let's say the fight wasn't that far pushed up, and it was closer to here in the middle. If he were to teleport here, and they're standing here, they're going to see the teleport, and they're going to be able to retreat. So, by putting it all the way back in the bush, as opposed to the front of the bush, gives him more time to basically collapse on them and to get a kill. Alright, let's keep following Jarvan here. Jarvan's recalling, never mind. So this is, I meant to talk about this last game, but the game ended very quickly, is ward placement, and that's an example of, you know, it's such a tiny difference. It's here versus here, and, you know, a player might not even think that there is a difference. It's like, the bush is warded, what does it matter? But it does matter. Also, another thing is when you're, I think they call this the C bush. It's a backward C on this side, but you know, a lot of players will just throw a ward into it, and they don't give any thought to it. You typically want to put the ward on the very... Let's fucking auto camera adjust. You want to put the ward on the very... Manual camera, here we go. You want to put the ward on the very outer edge of the bush. That way it gives like a V shape of the vision. So it'll spot down here, and it'll spot anything coming up here. You know, if you were to put it just a little further down, it's not going to spot this top area here. It gives you less vision. Where's another one? Another example of where you want to ward. Like, a lot of mid laners, and I'm guilty of this myself sometimes, will be selfish with their wards and just throw it directly into the bush here. And first off, that doesn't even help you against all junglers. Let's say they had a Lee Sin or a Vi. If you have a ward in here, and you're pushed up to, say, here where the Swain is, if they're standing here on the edge, they have abilities that can close the gap over this ledge here. They don't need to come into this bush. So it doesn't even protect you against that. So generally, you would prefer to put the ward right in here. That'll spot the jungler around the wraiths. It'll also give a little bit of vision into the river here, so if the enemy jungler is going into the river, you can know if they're trying to maybe steal a buff, or maybe they're coming up for you, or maybe they're going down to gank bottom lane. This gives you a lot more vision than putting it into this brush here. Now the same could be said on top side. You know, putting it top side here only helps you if they decide to come through this path. If the enemy jungler walks along here, and then decides, you know what, I don't feel like ganking mid, I'm going to walk through this way, I'm going to come up behind this Darius, who maybe pretend he had a ward here, I'm going to come up behind this way, I'm going to bypass the ward, and then we're going to kill him. If you had put a ward here, we're assuming that you're purple side, if you had put a ward here, as opposed to here in the brush, you will see the jungler coming down to go into this brush to gank you. You will also see the jungler entering your red side jungle to either steal a buff, potentially gank your jungler, or come up behind this Darius and kill him. So it's pretty much mirror sides. I mean, you can put it here, or you can put it in the actual brush itself. Both are okay. I think putting it in the bush is a little bit better. So those are just a few examples of how, you know, a ward is not always a ward. Like, see? He put a ward in here. He could have put that, like, in here. It would have been a little bit better. And purple side is doing... Oh, see, there's a good example of what's going on here. Wow, that did a lot of damage. This is bad. She's going to die now. That was not worth it just to clear a ward. That was a big mistake from Sona. But now, while that was a mistake, it was a good idea to pink ward this brush. Like, there's a pink ward battle going on in this brush simply because there's a Jarvan in the game. That's how important this brush is, because he can combo over into it. I feel a little bad we haven't been following the Jarvan too much this game. Although we will see him get a kill there. Good job. Now, if they can kill this Jax, which they should be able to, let's see if they take Dragon. Nasus is down here. Okay, he's pinging Dragon. Oh, I don't know who's pinging Dragon. I'm going to assume Jarvan because he got into the pit first. This is a mistake from Jinx. This Jinx should be helping Jarvan with the Dragon. It looks like he's pinging it, and the Jinx is making a mistake, just wasting time here, trying to get a kill or something. So it looks like they will get it, but with a Twitch in the game, the Twitch could have snuck up on them and finished off this Jarvan. He could have killed him. The Twitch could have potentially stole the Dragon. A lot of little things that could have happened there that could have went wrong because the Jinx made the mistake of not coming to help with the Dragon. Another thing they can do is... There is a pink, so I mean, he would have seen him coming, but he was still low. I mean, even if he saw him coming, I think the Twitch might have been able to do something. Report Twitch, please. Harass. Alright, this is what I'm talking about, where, you know, this player, the Jarvan, I mean, it's a kind of a one-sided game because there apparently is a toxic player on the enemy team. And there's probably arguing and lack of communication. So negative attitude is probably losing the blue team their game right now. I'm not trying to take away anything from the purple team. They've played well so far. But, you know, it's a combination of playing well and the other team is on the toxic side and basically giving a free win. So I haven't really seen anything I would classify as a mistake from the Jarvan this game. Little thing he could have done, tiniest little thing, although it hasn't mattered yet this game, is rather than buy a sight ward, he could have bought a pink ward, which would have made ganking a Twitch better. Like, if this wasn't such a one-sided game where they're completely obliterating the Twitch before he can even, like, vanish or do anything, generally he can escape and run away. Although, she does have Zap. Does Zap reveal? I thought they were changing something with that. I don't know if the change is live yet. I think it was on the PvE, where it's not going to reveal enemies anymore. So as of live, I guess Jinx is good for revealing the Twitch, but... I believe in the next patch you won't be able to do that. So, but then again, in the next patch, wards and vision in general are changing, so... Oh, he missed. Jarvan. Oh! This Swain should have been dead. And he is, but not for the right reason. So again, this is another one-sided game. Unfortunately, there's not a ton to learn from this.
Blue team's turret has been destroyed.
The Jarvan seems to be doing well with objectives, which I feel like we watched the last game. The Sejuani basically ganked bottom, took the tower, and everyone was full HP, and it was a free dragon, and he went to go take wolves. So, I mean, that's a little thing the Jarvan player, the bronze player that we're spectating, could change about his game. little questionable. They don't really have the damage to kill Swain, I feel like. Never mind, Sona abandoned him. This Sona is making a lot of mistakes this game. See, Sona could have done that before while staying here. That's one of the things that you have to understand. He's gonna die anyway. Good job, Jinx. You have to be aware of what the enemy is thinking. So when they were fighting here, you basically had Swain and Sona versus Jarvan and Leona. You could see that Jarvan and Leona, who don't have a ton of damage, were doing everything in their in everything that they possibly could to kill Swain because he's healing from his ultimate. They're completely focused on him. And Swain got the both of them very low, and Sona, who had about 2/3 of her HP, decides to retreat and run away and leave him to die. Then, after he dies, decides, you know what, Leona's low, I'm going to go back in and try and get the kill, and does. If he had just stayed there and even put out a little bit of damage with, you know, Qs and his passive and just a little bit of heals that he could do to go with the Swain heals, Swain might have actually killed them. It could have happened. And then another thing you need to be mindful of is I generally, every time I'm low HP, I will quickly hit tab and look at the scoreboard, which I can't do in this game, and I will look to see, are there globals I need to be worried about? And I would see, oh, okay, and then I'll remind myself by looking at the scoreboard, okay, there's a Jinx in this game, I need to be careful about a Jinx ult. And, you know, I wouldn't have stayed directly in the center of the lane like the Sona did here and then died. Now, the Jinx ult that killed, was it Swain here a few minutes ago? You know, that's a little bit harder to plan for because you still have people chasing you, and I don't think Jinx was actually nearby, so it was just well aimed, and that happens sometimes. But the death here in the middle, that should not have happened. That was careless. Yeah, I've been very streaky myself lately. I lost something like 6 games in a row. Was it 2 days ago? And I think altogether I'd lost like 8 out of 10. And then now I'm on a 10-game winning streak. I've won 10 games in a row. Hoping to make that 11 when I play later today. So this is what I'm imagining happened. They were not doing well early game, and it seems like the Twitch was probably giving the Sona a hard time, I would have to guess, because the Sona, in all honesty, doesn't seem like that strong of a player. He should have just stayed in that brush, I think. No, he'll escape. Never mind. This is why you want to carry a pink when you're trying to gank Twitch. What was I saying? I don't remember what I was saying. Yeah, imagine, that actually happened to me. When I first started playing ranked, I would say in the spring this year, my placements put me in Season 2. Not Season 2, Silver 2. And, you know, I would duo with like silver friends, and I hit gold, but then I wasn't getting past gold. Like I would go up to gold 4, and then because I was duoing with people beneath me, my MMR was bad, like you said, and I was basically losing more for losses than I would gain for wins. So when that happens, you need to maintain a higher win rate to basically advance. And that just wasn't happening because the friends I was playing with, you know, not to be mean, but they were not the greatest players. So it was making it more difficult on me. I would have to carry the games, and then I would have to maintain a higher win percentage, and it just wasn't happening. And I eventually just stopped playing duo queue altogether, and I hit platinum rather easily. I feel like duo queue is a good thing when you duo with someone higher than you, because that actually increases the amount of points you get sometimes. But only if you feel comfortable being last pick, because you will be last pick usually when you're duo with someone higher, and only when you feel comfortable playing in that bracket. Like, I'm Diamond, and I've duoed with a lot of Silver people recently because the season's ending and I personally don't care. And I'm just trying to help people, get gold if they can. So, I've duoed with Silver people who clearly were not comfortable playing against it, because it averages you out to Platinum players. So they were not comfortable playing in that level, and I've played with Silver players who could have lied to me and told me they had, a Diamond Smurf or whatever, and it just happens. The CS in this game is hurting my eyes. Oh, we have 22 minutes. 134 is the highest. That tends to happen in high action games, high kill games. You generally spend a lot of time running around, killing people, and then recalling, so your CS will be lower. So I actually don't find 127 to be all that awful, considering she has 10 kills and 7 assists. Just as an example. Yeah, the Nasus flash was questionable. So now, just to give an example, this Jarvan, who is the guy that I'm spectating, he could go into his next game, get players who are having a bad game, don't work well together, and it could be as one-sided as this with him on the losing team. And if he tries to use that as an excuse to me as to why he's bronze, I don't believe it, because he won this game for that same reason. When you play enough games, it balances itself out. I would argue that you actually win more because of people being ragers, DCing, and arguing. Because when you think about it, you are in control of yourself. So if you know that you behave well and get along with others in game, and you play well, you're consistently well, that only leaves 4 random elements on your team that you have to be concerned about, whereas the enemy team has 5. So, sure, short term you might get screwed and, you'll be unlucky, but if you play hundreds of games, eventually it's going to work out in your favor, where you are winning more because of people being toxic or leaving games or just doing whatever it is they do. So I never buy that as an excuse from anyone. Both trannies are mods now. Yes, I call them trannies because they have trans in their name. So I feel like I've been rambling a little bit. You guys have any questions? Anything about what we've seen here? Any thoughts about things I've said? How is the new Heimer? He's amazing. I'm on a 10-game winning streak playing only Heimerdinger. It's fun. Do you use shampoo and conditioner or just shampoo? Just shampoo. Such a troll. Any league-related questions? I always want to ask streamers what they think about Galio. Alright. We will get to genital piercing after this question. Well, you know what? Let me first stop the stream and then restart it, because I want to create the VOD. And, because the guy we were spectating, I told him to watch this to try and learn what I've been saying. So I want him to be able to just watch this clip of those two games. So let me stop and restart it quick. So I'll be right back.